Hello everybody, in today's video we're going to be going over a big severe weather outbreak over parts of the central plains and then back through parts of the southeast. We already have an enhanced risk out on the day 3 outlook for Wednesday over parts of Georgia, Alabama, into parts of Mississippi and Arkansas as well. We're going to be covering all of this and more in today's video and giving you my ideas on what I think could happen with this severe weather event. This is going to be mainly taking place from Tuesday through Thursday. It'll start off in the Central Plains on Tuesday, then shift over to the Gulf states on Wednesday, and then eventually on Thursday into areas in the Carolinas, Georgia, and potentially into northern Florida as well. Here's what the current National Weather Service page looks like. We have some winter weather advisories out in the western part of the country, so for areas like California, Oregon, even a little bit of Nevada and Arizona as well under those winter weather advisories. We have winter storm warnings in effect for parts of northern California as well, and then we have some freeze watches, I believe those are, for parts of northwestern California as well as southwestern Oregon. We have winter storm watches in effect for parts of southeastern Colorado, and some more winter weather advisories and winter storm warnings in effect for parts of Illinois, Iowa, Minnesota, even a little bit of South Dakota back through Wisconsin and into western Michigan. We have red flag warnings in effect for parts of Delaware, Pennsylvania, New Jersey, and also into parts of Rhode Island and Massachusetts, as well as a little area of Maryland there. We have some wind advisories and some more red flag warnings in effect for areas around Oklahoma, Arkansas, Texas, and Louisiana. And then some more red flag warnings in western Texas and southern New Mexico. Yesterday we had six-way tie for the high temperature in the continental United States, and I'll just kind of go down the list. In Cecile Field, Florida, they got to 88 degrees yesterday. So did 21 miles northwest of Glen St. Mary, Florida. 10 miles northwest of Salt Springs, Florida, also got to 88 degrees. 5 miles southwest of Astor Park, Florida, they got to 88 degrees. 15 southeast of Immokalee, Florida, they got to 88 degrees, and so did Pembroke, Georgia. They also got to 88 degrees. The low temperature was in Copper Basin, Idaho, where they got to -4 degrees Fahrenheit, and the highest precipitation or rainfall report was in York, Nebraska, where they got 4.56 inches of rainfall reported yesterday. The high snowfall report, and this is a big number here, 1 mile southwest of Windy Peak, Wyoming, they have 52.5 inches of snowfall. Some of the lower lying areas around there was around 20 inches, but that is, again, a higher elevation area, a few thousand feet up, and because of that, they were able to get nearly 30 inches more. There were many reports over 30 inches through southeastern Wyoming and northern Colorado, so that was really a very, very interesting event to watch on the radar, and I was monitoring that yesterday because it was very, very interesting to see the videos that came out of that event and all the crazy snow totals that we saw reported yesterday. So here's what the current Storm Prediction Center outlook for the day 2 risk looks like. We have a marginal risk in effect for parts of the Central Plains and then back through parts of the southeast, especially as you get a little bit away from the coast. This is mainly due to a system that's going to be coming out of the southern plains, shooting up into the northern plains, and then taking a track back through into parts of the Great Lakes and the northeast. This is going to be pulling in some very warm and moist Gulf moisture, and because of that, we're going to have a lot of moisture and a lot of humidity to work with. We also have some cooler, drier air pressing in from the north. That's what creates that perfect boundary zone. Somewhere right within here is where we have the perfect conditions for some sort of severe weather or tornado event, especially on Wednesday. That looks to be the peak of this storm system. So slight risk in effect for parts of Oklahoma and Kansas. If we look at the individual risks for tomorrow or Tuesday, we have a 2% chance of tornadoes all back throughout this area through parts of the southeast and the central and southern plains. We have a 15% chance of hail for parts of Oklahoma and Kansas, and also a 15% chance of wind damage for parts of Kansas and Oklahoma as well. Day 3 is where we're really dealing with a lot more trouble in terms of severe weather. I would not be surprised, especially as you get back through Mississippi, Arkansas, a little bit of Louisiana as well, maybe a little bit of Tennessee, that they might add a moderate risk. As you get back through Alabama, especially once you pass the center point of Alabama right through here, this is when it starts to go from supercell storms, scattered supercell storms that are going to have a higher potential for tornadoes, and it starts to form more of a line of storms, which is very damaging for wind, can produce some hail, but that's not going to really bring up the risk, I don't think. I think the tornado risk back throughout these areas, basically from Mississippi westward, is going to be the real threat for those areas. We have a slight risk encompassing a huge area of the central Gulf states, all the way up through the Tennessee Valley, and then even into a little bit of the southeast, and you even have that enhanced risk in that orange. And this is on the day 3 outlook, so we have still 2.5 days for them to upgrade this to maybe a moderate risk, or potentially even a little bit higher, depending on what the high resolution models start to show. Here's your risk of seeing any severe weather in these areas, and we have a 30% chance here in that red, and a hatched significant risk area in that kind of black hatched area there for parts of Alabama, Mississippi, and Arkansas. So that's where we have the highest threat of severe weather. And on their day 4 outlook, they have a 15% chance, equivalent to a slight risk of severe weather for parts of basically the southeast coast, I guess you could say, from the Appalachians eastward along parts of the southeast is where we have that 15% chance of severe weather. For those of you who live right within this area and northward, I think you're not going to see too much severe weather, mainly due to the elevation that could break up some of the storms. So you're probably going to want to be south of there to get into the severe storms, or the heart of the severe storms. You will still see some maybe gusty winds and a pop-up thunderstorm or two. Here's your chances of excessive rainfall, and you look for tomorrow. We have a 5 to 10% chance in the green, a 10 to 20% chance in the yellow, and if we look at Wednesday, we have a much larger area, especially centered around the Tennessee Valley, where we have that greatest chance of seeing some flash flooding in those areas. So let's start taking a look at what some of the models are showing, and we're going to use the regional Canadian model, because this is one of the only models that are high resolution but also go out to the entirety or most of the event. So you start off with some pop-up storms on Tuesday. That's why we have that marginal risk in effect for parts of the southeast on Tuesday, although the main system is still back through western Texas by this point. It's going to again pull away to the north. You can already see that the wind direction is coming out of the south. So we already have that moist, humid air in place over the southeast. We have temperatures in the 70s, upper 70s, even a few 80s for those areas. You see the thunderstorms start to kind of go away. You're really seeing them head out further to the east. Most of these storms, by the way, are still caused by this storm that's off the Carolinas. So that's going to be heading to the east. And then here comes the bigger monster storm out of parts of Texas and Oklahoma that's going to really be driving up the rainfall and the severe storms. So here to be by Wednesday morning, we're dealing with some severe and heavy storms over parts of Texas, Oklahoma, and Kansas. And then you can see that back through, and again, this isn't the most high resolution model, although it does give you a general idea of what type of storms you're dealing with. So you go back through into parts of Texas and Oklahoma, it's more of a straight line wind event. But if you start to go back through into areas, let's say like Louisiana, Arkansas, Mississippi, this is where it's going to start to be more supercell type of storms, which can be a lot more dangerous because they have a lot more potential to spawn tornadoes. And then you go back through the southeast, that's where you have more of a risk for a straight line wind event with a line of storms that are going to move through. Could have some very gusty, damaging winds and heavy rainfall, but maybe not as strong of a tornado threat. At least that's what it looks like right now. So you can see that by Wednesday in the early afternoon, the storms are breaking apart, which even though it doesn't look like it's going to be that severe as of right now, just watch the next couple of frames and you can see how all that moisture is being pulled up from the Gulf of Mexico. Then by Wednesday in the evening hours, so this would be around 7-8 o'clock at night on Wednesday, and we're looking at more of those very scattered storms back through into Alabama, Mississippi, Tennessee, and Georgia. And then by the time that we head over into Thursday, this is when you start to see more of a line of storms start to set up from northeast to southwest. Then that storm system continues to head further to the east, and one of the reasons that you're seeing kind of this discombobulated low pressure here where you have a low pressure up here, but you have all the storms to the south, is because we're starting to deal with this storm trying to stretch out again kind of over here. So we're starting to see somewhat of a pull for another low pressure to form, and that's spinning up enough energy to produce these storms. Then getting through the morning hours on Thursday, still dealing with very strong storms through Alabama, Georgia, Tennessee. So even though you're not dealing with the tornado risk, at least not as big of a tornado risk, you're still dealing with a very, very strong line of storms that are going to be moving through here. So that's definitely not a good sign in terms of if you don't want severe weather. It's going to be definitely a fairly bad severe weather day for a lot of these areas. Then through Thursday morning, you see the storms heading into Georgia, North Carolina by this point. Thursday in the late morning into the early afternoon, we're dealing with that line of storms kind of shrinking. So now it's only into the Carolinas, but still, if you're stuck within that band of storms, it's going to be fairly intense, and definitely you're going to want to kind of plan around those storm systems. When the storm does hit, you're really not going to be able to travel at all, mainly because of the very reduced visibilities because of the heavy rainfall and the gusty winds blowing around all that rainfall. And then here's the last frame of the model, but you can see that the line of storms breaks out a little bit more, so you might be dealing with a little bit more of a hail, maybe a weak tornado back through the eastern Carolinas, eastern South Carolina, as well as that line of storms breaks up. But that's the end of the model run, and basically that's the end of the severe weather event at that same time. So here's what the European model is showing for rainfall amounts, and you can see that we have very, very heavy rainfall amounts over parts of especially Alabama, Mississippi, Georgia, Tennessee, that area. So right through here, we're dealing with rainfall reports as that line of storms starts to set up. Maybe just within the period of about 6 hours, we're dealing with maybe 4 to 6 inches of rainfall. So that's definitely not good news, and that could cause some flash flooding, unfortunately, for these areas. Here would be the high temperatures for Tuesday. You can see that we're dealing with temperatures in the 60s and 70s. You see a little bit more cold air back through into the Carolinas, but that's not really the main area for the severe weather on Tuesday anyway. It's mainly back through these areas right here. So we have temperatures all above 65 degrees, all above 70 degrees for the most part, and typically you want to be at least 65 degrees. Once you're into the 70s, that's when you're well above the at least minimum threshold, so you're good to go in terms of severe weather. Here to be by Wednesday, and even warmer temperatures. Now we're dealing with mid 70s, upper 70s for a lot of these areas that are going to be the bullseye of the severe storms. And then if we go through Thursday, here are your high temperatures, and you can see it really warms up over the Carolinas, and that's what's going to lead to the severe storms to move through there. You're dealing with at least 65 degrees everywhere from about western North Carolina eastward there, and for pretty much the entire state of Georgia, the entire state of South Carolina, eastern North Carolina as well. So we're dealing with ample warm air, and that's definitely not going to be any issue with this event. Here's just kind of a animated loop of the convective available potential energy. You can see how the real energy is going to be centered right through here, and you can see how we have over 1,000 CAPE in a lot of those areas, 1,000 to 2,000 joules per kilogram. So that's definitely ample CAPE. You really only need 500 to get a semi-decent storm system going, and once you get above 1,500, that's when you're pretty much good to go. You don't really need much more to spawn a severe storm. If you look at your dew points as well, we're not really struggling with dew points either. We're dealing with mid 60s in a lot of these areas. You want to be at least 60, and once you get into the mid 60s, again, you're good enough to go. You have a severe weather event if you have that type of moisture in the atmosphere. And then here would be that would be for Wednesday in the morning. Here would be for Thursday night as it's starting to head into the southeast, and you can see we have above 60 for that entire area. So dew points definitely are not going to be an issue either. So that is going to wrap it up for today's video. We are going to have extra updates on this event because it does look to be one of the more major severe weather events, especially for the southeast, that we've seen just this season so far. So we will be breaking it down for you guys, giving you updates over the next couple of days. If you did enjoy this video, please consider liking the video, subscribing, and turning on notifications, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Goodbye.